Hello! Yes, another episode. The third episode to be exact. I am so proud and excited. This is a bit of this and a bit of that. My name is Yulyah and in a moment, we're gonna be talking about reading. I'm gonna be sharing my version of tips and tricks, or whatever you call them, on how to enjoy reading. Stay tuned. So, I love reading. Reading is one thing that cannot be separated from my existence. It's like everybody who know me know that I love reading. Some of my friends often ask me, how do I enjoy reading so much? How can I enjoy staring at endless, boring black strokes in their words? Boring black strokes for hours. Well, some people just love reading, I guess, and I really want people to start love reading as well. And as what I've learned from my friends, they actually want to love reading but find themselves bored already, even only by the thought of reading. Some did try and regret the experience. And I, as an avid reader myself, will talk about that in this episode. My own know-how, tips and tricks, or whatever the name is, to make reading more enjoyable, and hopefully what I will be sharing in this episode will be helpful to some in any way. So, I have always practiced this but never actually thought about it in details before yesterday. So, yesterday I was thinking of what topic to talk about on this podcast, and I was waiting in line at the bank. And when I was waiting for my turn, I found myself reading on my phone, and I thought, okay, I love reading this much. Why not talking about reading on my podcast? So here it is. The tips and tricks, or whatever you call them, to enjoy reading, to have a fulfilling reading experience. And before I start, there's one thing I have to clarify. So I have this tendency to talk to myself. Well, I actually am talking to myself right now and have it recorded. And when doing that, when talking to myself, I address myself like the second person, like someone else. So I will be using the pronoun of the second person. I will say you. But when saying you, that doesn't in any way mean I am lecturing anyone. Anyway, who I am to lecture anyone. I don't have the qualification. Besides, this podcast is not for lecturing people. And I am honestly not so keen on lecturing or be lectured. I just want to touch on that in case someone misunderstood. Anyway, to the points, the tips and tricks. The first one, and this is, I believe, is extremely important. The first one is your book choice, how to choose what to read. I believe reader need to be proactive in finding what book good for them. But I also believe that book does attract. Like some books choose the reader. It's like the theory of first impression. The first impression doesn't determine the rest of the story, but it cannot be denied as well that there are certain qualities in people that draw you into them. That's the same with choosing book to read. So you need to know what book you want to read. And in doing that, there are two things you need to pay attention to. The first, you have to know your standard. Ask yourself, why do you need to read this book? Will it worth the time and energy? And the second, you have to know where is your standing before the book. In that sense, you are the one who need knowledge. or even for the purpose of entertainment, you are the one who needs it, not the other way around. I know that's quite an extreme way to perceive reading, but I believe such thinking is needed. It's necessary because you have to understand the position of book and you. And please, before you leave, please stay. That's only the beginning. Some less extreme and more practical tips and tricks are coming next, so don't worry, I am not so boring. Well, I hope, at least. Anyway, the second point is the when, the where, and the how. The where mainly, because I am talking about this based from my personal experience. Rather than more than the time or the how, the place where we read is one critical aspect in order to have the fulfilling experience. So the place where you read the book has to be in tune, has to suit the kind of book you read. And to be able to do that, you need to know yourself. What kind of atmosphere, what kind of nuance that suits the most that suits you the most when reading a certain book. And this could be different from one person to another because, we human, we are different, so our experience also differs. For example, I personally love to stay in my room when reading suspense or mystery, but I love reading non-fiction in a cafe with open view, green view, and when reading classic fiction or a book with in surrealism genre, I love to read them in a coffee shop, a small cafe, which offers quiet, closed, far from the main road, and with yellow lighting, not so bright, just enough to read words. That's just me. You should find your comfort place as well. What suits you the most? And those little things that I said, like the light, the place, where it is located. Some people often don't pay attention to those aspects in reading, but I believe they are important. So you have to pay attention to those. It's a way to treat yourself, to treat yourself a fulfilling experience. The third point now, we're moving to the third point. You have to know yourself again. Know yourself, what kind of reader you are. So there's this one saying from G.K. Chesterton that I love. Here I quote. He said, "There is a great deal of difference between an eager man who wants to read a book and a tired man who wants a book to read. Nothing's wrong with both. I mean, you can choose. Anybody is free to be either one. But it is important to keep in mind that we need to identify ourselves when we decide, we want to read. Like, when you want to read, you have to choose which one of those two types are you. Because if you are the eager man who wants to read, it means you are in the prime condition to do reading. So choose a book you want to read. But if you at the time are the tired man or woman who wants a book to read, then it means you have to choose the book that suits your body condition at that moment. The short one, the humorous one, the light one, whatever suits your preference at that occasion, at that certain time. And I believe in doing this and doing, in being able to identify exactly what kind of reader you are at certain moments. That is the way to respect book. And I believe the moment we show respect to the book, fulfilling experience is waiting for us. Beside the 3 points that I have explained to you, there's one more thing that I believe is of no less importance, namely how we position our body while reading. So, the position of our body is extremely important. I have mine, and you should find yours. Mine is sitting cross-legged with my back straight, and you might be different from mine. Yours might be different from mine, so you should find yours. And don't forget to prepare drink and snacks. Drink and snacks are important. And one more thing, the internet. The internet is important, so you better make sure it's available when you're reading, because I believe if we come across a new word, a new term, or whatever we don't understand, we shouldn't go on while living a part we don't understand. It can spoil our reading experience. So don't forget to, try to understand at like the moment you come across something you don't understand. Try to understand that first before you go on. And don't forget to make notes while reading. It's like rewriting in your own language, not necessarily paraphrasing, simply you rewriting what you come across in that book. Because I believe rewriting enriches perspective and gives us reader a chance to rethink about what we just read. And there are also several things, post-reading stuff, that I believe are important in order for us to have a fulfilling reading experience. First, do not falsify your own experience. This is important. Do not falsify your own experience, especially when you read a popular book. And when reading a popular book, we know that there's an expected response. Because it's popular, you might have seen how people respond to that book before you read it yourself. So just be truthful to yourself. No need to falsify or anything. And second, be intrigued with your personal experience in reading. Like asking, why do I perceive this book this way? Why this is the impression I get? And when you are reading a book about something substantive, science, or anything like, let it be the reason to read more. Like, you have to be intrigued. You have to, search more. If this book says this, what about the other book? What about, other books? Because I believe when it comes to science and knowledge, only when we know enough, only when our knowledge is sufficient enough, then we get to have a fair perspective. And it's especially important in this society, current society, to be able to have a fair perspective. And the third post-reading stuff that I want to share to you is, do not force yourself to look for a justification for whatever your experience on the book turns out to be. Like, let things unfold in the most natural way, including your intelligence pursuit. If you don't like a book, then just keep in mind of that book. Oh, this is your impression of the book. Then try other books. Books are abundant. Find yours. Find what suits you the most. Just, find a way. Be proactive in finding a way to have a fulfilling experience yourself. Oh, and aside from those many points that I have shared, there are two more things, and I believe these two are principal. One is our respect and appreciation to book, as something, book is something of high value, and we need to appreciate them as something of high value. And the second point is the realization that the books we read a book for our own good. We need it. We need them. We need books to broaden our mind, to enrich our knowledge, to stoke ourselves in undergoing the big project, the pursuit of meaning, or living the life itself. We need book in order to, to prepare ourselves for living life in general. Books are important, and when we regard book as something so close to our life, something important, and something of high value as well, I believe it's like it will be automatic, like you will then think of book as you will have perspective on seeing book, and when you have perspective, it will positively affect your reading experience, and I believe by then you will be able to have a very fulfilling reading experience. Oh my god, this is so all over the place. I don't plan to do editing. I just because I think if I don't do editing and just speak directly and record them without touching what I said will be more genuine, as if I mean it, and I really mean it. What I say to you, and I do them myself. So here, I think I've shared. That's all I can share to you. And I hope I am not too serious. And I hope after you listen to this, you will give it a try, and hopefully you will find what I've shared to you helpful in a way. And perhaps after this, you will join me in having countless fulfilling experiences in reading. That would be my joy and my pleasure. Anyway, that's all I can share. I can think of about what to do in order to have a fulfilling reading experience. And as I said, I hope you find them helpful. And this is the end of the third episode of A Bit of This and a Bit of That. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time, bye bye.